two ICE officials were fired because they're not keeping up with the quotas of the goal of 3,000 people detained a day. And I wanted to just ask you about a trip you made to the Eloy Detention Facility in Arizona. Because we're being told, simultaneously, right, it is unconscionable the kinds of sweeps that are happening. Yes, all the students and the children and in addition to the deportations. But so long as they have this awful plan, their actual ability to humanely house people is a very far, not even second, third, maybe 8th, 10th, 12th consideration. The conditions of a lot of these facilities are horrible. A lot of people are being held in, I believe, county jails for extended amounts of time. We're always getting stories of, grandmothers who just got released after being, arrested or detained for 3 months and all this. So tell me about Eloy, and also just the reaction to you being a representative, given that, Representative LaMonica Ivor, she was charged for assaulting an ICE agent when she was also just on a, visitation oversight tour of this facility in New Jersey.
Yeah. So another example of something that is absolutely insane for a sitting member of Congress to be, to have charges pressed against her. And I am close with LaMonica and have heard this story directly from her and the other two members who were there. And the way, this administration has completely fabricated the story, and the way they were bombarded by these ICE officials is crazy. So for that reason, I think it's extremely important that as many members of Congress as possible go to these detention centers and do visits, because we are legally allowed and allowed by law to do so. And Trump dismantled 3 of the oversight bodies within DHS early on in his term this time. So other than us going to these facilities, there's basically no form of oversight that exists.
And you guys have a right to do that. Congress is allowed, because these are federal detention facilities, to make these visits, correct?
Yeah, so we're allowed to just show up, and they are required by law to give us a tour. Staff has to request 24 hours in advance, but even, my own team member should be able to go with that kind of notice. So, Phoenix, my district, Arizona, is very much on the front lines of Trump's immigration policies. So there's a lot of folks. We have constituents who we had heard from their family members who are in Eloy. So we went there, and I think given what happened in New Jersey, the process to get in was smooth. All of that, they didn't make us wait or anything, which is what happened in New Jersey. We went in. I was in there for 3 hours. Got a very comprehensive tour of every part of the facility.
Were you able to speak with any people who were actually being detained?
Yes. And that's where there was a complete contradiction between the talking points, very diplomatic talking points that I got from the staff, who I understand were, they're doing their job. I'm doing my job. So we walked into the kind of cafeteria, and a lot of all the women were eating, because it's pretty separate by gender. And me and my district director, who was with me, we asked the gentleman who was giving us a tour, can we talk to these women? He's like, yep, absolutely. Go ahead. So we went and just sat down, started talking with some folks. The women were extremely eager to speak with us. People started kind of coming over to us, pulling us over. And the stories that they were sharing were horrific, and very detailed accounts of things that are going on there. Multiple stories that were very much focused on specific staff members there who are treating them in very dehumanizing, degrading ways. One specific story that, and I want to really clarify, this wasn't just like one or two people telling me this story. It was confirmed by probably over a dozen women. They pointed to a man who works in that space and said, this man forced us all outside about a month ago, had us march around in the heat for like what felt like 2 hours. And he's like screaming at us and yelling things like, quote, "This is the price of the American dream."
Jeez.
Like things that just, they're so horrible. They sound fake, but all of these women are telling you this. So obvious, like it's true.
Just like some extremist little fiefdom that they're doing these like ridiculous exercises with people who are already, I mean, if you can, maybe you remember the kinds of folks, like these are not criminals.
No, these are just women. These are just women who are immigrants. Like some were new, had just tried to come into the country over the last couple of months. One was a DACA recipient who said she grew up in Phoenix and she was pulled over for running a red light and then was sent here. Another woman said she was at her green card appointment and her husband is a US citizen and she was sent here and hasn't been able to really speak with her family. So it was a variety of backgrounds, but none of these people were criminals in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So, and then other, like a lot of just like, just dehumanizing, degrading, racist commentary. I think a lot of purposeful abuse, things like purposefully turning off the AC, then like, eventually one of them said they turned the AC back on, but they were pissed about it. And so they like amped it up all the way until the point where they're freezing. And like she pointed to a woman who she's like, this woman has been sick, like really, really sick because of all of this. So it was, I felt so sick. And then what happened was the staffer who was giving us a tour at like, I would say around 30-40 minutes into us speaking with the women, he came and like grabbed us and was like, actually, like we weren't supposed to let you like.
Sure. Yeah. You can't go off the tour.
Yeah.
Stay on the tour.
Like, so he had obviously spoken with someone and been told like, this is a mistake.
Yep.
But it was, it was kind of too late. So it was horrible. I mean, it was sickening.
And it sort of tracks with the other things that we've been hearing. And also just like even the awful, stories of even pregnant women losing their pregnancies in detention because they weren't given medical care. Yeah. And this is the, again, so-called pro-life party. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.